Greetings and welcome to this reflection. Today's offering comes from the coloring book Reflecting on Divinity, a Meditative Journey Using Colour, and states, the effort to be our optimum self and alter undesirable qualities and habits is a personal quest and cannot be attained with false data or unrealistic expectations. When you sit with these words, they begin to touch every layer of who we are. Not just the polished parts we show the world, but the traits we inherited, absorbed, or developed just to survive. Many of our habits feel natural, only because we have been practicing them for years. Some came from our parents' fears, some from the households we grew up in, some from poverty, some from comparison, some from constant criticism. And after a while, they start to feel like part of our very being. So, we might find ourselves reacting before thinking, shutting down when overwhelmed, people-pleasing just to stay safe, using anger to cover fear, carrying guilt that doesn't even belong to us, or pretending to be strong when we are exhausted inside. Those are the ones we can admit to. But there is another layer, the one we rarely name out loud. Because for some, the inherited or acquired tendencies are sharper, darker, and more dangerous. This is where we meet thieves and liars. We meet the ones who manipulate as a way of life. We meet those who take pleasure in control. We meet those who abuse the vulnerable behind closed doors. We meet the domestic abuser who says, I love you, and hurts you in the same breath. We meet the murderer who has so numbed themselves that another person's life feels disposable. These are still human beings. And before we judge these heavier tendencies, before we shrink back in horror at the thief, the liar, the abuser, the violent one, we must face a truth we were never taught. These things are human. Normal in the sense that they exist in the human family. Not rare, not alien, not evidence that someone is less of a person. Some of us are plagued with what I call the lesser evils: insecurity, jealousy, emotional manipulation, impatience, the need to control. And we look down on those who are carrying the monsters. But we forget all of these energies are stronger than us. None of us birthed them. We didn't sit down one day and decide, let me develop cruelty, or let me become violent. These currents existed long before we arrived. They move through bloodlines, through environments, through collective trauma, through spiritual doors left open. And when an energy is ready to manifest in this realm, it cannot do so without a human vessel. That vessel might be the gentle person who breaks under pressure. It might be the wounded boy who grows into a dangerous man. It might be the woman carrying decades of unspoken rage. It might be the child raised in violence who learned that survival meant becoming the very thing they feared. This does not excuse harm, but it does explain it. And explanation is what loosens shame. Because shame thrives in the dark, while truth sets the inner captive free. When we understand that these traits are not abnormalities, but part of the spectrum of human experience, we stop pretending. We stop hiding from ourselves. We stop treating people as monsters while believing we are nothing like them. Some of us are simply touched by lighter energies. Some of us are touched by heavier ones. But all of us are dealing with ingredients we never asked for. And the moment we stop judging the heaviness someone else carries, we gain the courage to face our own. And very often, that avatar is fed by hiding. Hiding from others, hiding from consequences, but most dangerously, hiding from themselves. And this is where we need to tell another harsh truth, one we rarely speak aloud. These heavy traits we name and act as though they belong to this person or that person. These behaviors we isolate, condemn, and pin to individual souls. They are not just personal feelings. They are collective invasions. Currents of consciousness that do not originate inside one human being. Currents that move through families, communities, nations, and lifetimes. When these energies find a doorway through trauma, fear, neglect, rage, or simple vulnerability, they latch on. And once they attach, they do not express themselves in the sky or the sea or the wind. They express themselves through people. This is why someone can shock even themselves with what they do. Why a gentle boy can become a violent man. Why a loving woman can become bitter and destructive. Why a child who witnessed cruelty repeats the pattern instinctively. These are not random defects. These are collective attacks from entities beyond our domain. Forces that exist in the unseen, looking for channels, and our unhealed places become their openings. And this is the part we truly underestimate. It is not the individual that destroys the beauty of this earth. It is these energies moving through individuals. The lying, the stealing, the cruelty, the violence, the manipulation, the abuse. We treat these as personal quirks, as if one isolated human being invented them. When in truth, they are ancient patterns, ancient spirits, ancient shadows that move through humanity in cycles. Some people carry the lighter influences, some carry the heavier ones. but none of it originated with them. And when we refuse to see this, we shame the vessel instead of addressing the force. We punish the symptom while ignoring the source. We break the person, but leave the energy free to move on to the next open door. This is why this reflection matters so deeply. You cannot become your optimum self if you are fighting shadows you think are your personality. You cannot transform if you believe you chose the heavier ingredients you were given. And you cannot heal if you do not understand that some things you battle were never born inside you. They simply found space in you. And the real work is not to pretend they were not there, nor to drown in shame because they are, but to bring truth, awareness, clarity, and divine alignment to the places where they once had free rein. And there's something else we rarely acknowledge, something we prefer to keep hidden even from ourselves. Some of us may never raise a hand, never steal, never lie, never manipulate, never abuse. Not physically anyway, but our thoughts, our fantasies, our silent judgments, our secret entertainments, our private cravings for someone else's downfall. Those inner storms we think do not hurt anybody. Those thoughts become fuel. Fuel that empowers the very energies we condemn. Fuel that charges the ones who actually act out what we only think. Fuel that strengthens the darker impulses floating through the collective. In the unseen, thoughts are not empty. They are currents. They are offerings. And every time we indulge in destructive thought, we feed the animalistic forces waiting for a vessel. Some of us are not the ones doing the acts, but in the realm of spirit, we are the ones feeding the cages. We are the private zookeepers, nourishing the very beasts we claim to be disgusted by. This is not said to shame you. It is said to awaken you. Because if your thoughts can empower darkness, then your thoughts can also empower healing, release, clarity, and divine alignment. You are more powerful than you know. Your inner world is not silent. It is participating. And once you see that, you stop judging, you stop hiding, you stop pretending that only those people carry monsters. Some of us feed the monster. Some of us fight it. Some of us carry it. But all of us are involved. And that is why truth, not fear, not shame, but truth is the only place transformation can begin. And the more we refuse to look honestly at what lives within us, whether it was born from our wombs, passed down through bloodline, picked up from environment, or carried in by forces beyond our domain, the more we refuse, the stronger that avatar becomes. Not because we built it, but because anything left unexamined grows in the dark. And eventually, the person can no longer tell where their true self ends and where the influenced self begins. This reflection reminds us that wherever we fall on this spectrum, whether we carry the lighter patterns or the heavier ones, growth is impossible without truth. Not the lies others told us, and not the lies we repeat to make ourselves feel acceptable. Truth. Life, in its own mysterious way, is a kind of game. Not a trivial one, but a progression of levels of awareness. At the early levels, we are simply reacting, repeating, surviving. We don't question anything, not our feelings, not our habits, not our impulses. At the next level, something shifts. We begin to notice our patterns. We catch ourselves. We feel the discomfort of honesty rising. At a higher level, we confront the traits that once felt too shameful to admit. The jealousy, the resentment, the manipulation, the rage, the fear, the emotional sabotage. And yes, even the darker impulses we thought made us unworthy. And the higher the level, the harder it is to pass, because the work becomes raw, precise, honest, and deeply, deeply personal. So, what if instead of wearing shame like a secret badge, we saw our tendencies, even the uncomfortable ones, as information? What if your jealousy is data, your rage is data, your need for control is data, your tendency to withdraw or manipulate is data, your drift toward harm instead of healing is data? Data that shows you the level you are on, the lesson you are dealing with, and where your next alignment is needed. Not as an excuse, not to say, this is just who I am, but to say, this is where I am in the game, and I am willing to face it. Because you cannot shift what you keep excusing. You cannot heal what you refuse to name. You cannot rise using false information about your inner world. This work is not about self-hate. It is not about shaming ourselves or others. It is about recognizing that every human being is made of ingredients, some light, some heavy, some we proudly claim, and some we inherited without consent. And perhaps the real invitation of this life is not to pretend we arrived flawless, but to courageously own what we came with and then work with it consciously. To be able to say inwardly, these are my ingredients, these are my shadows, these are my tendencies. And with divine help and clarity, and with realistic expectations, I will shift them, refine them, and align them, instead of letting them overrun me. Because the divine does not meet the avatar. The divine meets the real you, the one who is brave enough to look, brave enough to tell the truth, and ready to step into the level of the game you were always meant to master. True transformation begins with honesty, but not the surface honesty we perform for others, and not the kind that makes us look self-aware on the outside. It begins with the honesty that meets you where you truly are, not where you wish you were, not where you pretend to be, and not where others imagine you should be. Because becoming your optimum self is not a group project. It is a private excavation, a sacred uncovering, a willingness to look at the energies moving through you. The ones you choose, the ones you inherited, and the ones that attach themselves without your consent. False information about who you are, what shaped you, and what lives inside you creates spiritual detours. It leads to frustration, exhaustion, and cycles that never break because you are trying to heal an illusion instead of facing the truth. This reflection is the reminder that growth requires accuracy, not perfection, accuracy, the precision to say, this is what lives in me. This is where it came from. This is the level I am on. And this is the work I am ready to do. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot transform what you keep explaining away. As we close today's reflection, take a moment to look gently within. Where in your life might you be trying to grow using the wrong map? A map formed from someone else's expectations, someone else's wounds, or energies that never originated in you. Where have unrealistic standards made you feel like you are failing, when the truth is simply that you were carrying a story that was never yours? Think of one habit, one pattern, one tendency that keeps circling back. And instead of judging it, ask yourself softly, where did this come from? Is this mine or did I inherit it? Am I responding to truth or to comparison, fear, or collective pressure? Because when your growth rises from clarity and not from shame or confusion, change becomes steady, sustainable, and deeply liberating. You were never meant to fix yourself through illusion. Your freedom comes from accuracy, from truth, from the courage to see what is really there and meet it with divine alignment. As you go forward, may you grow with eyes open, heart steady, and spirit grounded in the awareness that nothing you carry is beyond transformation when you meet it honestly. There is a sacred intelligence within you that responds instantly to truth. Not the polished truth, not the public truth, but the truth you whisper to yourself in the quiet. when you choose honesty, emotional honesty, spiritual honesty, ancestral honesty, your inner world shifts. Your field begins to realign. The fog lifts, guidance sharpens, and the signs around you become unmistakable. Because your energy no longer leaks into illusions. It no longer feeds the avatar or the inherited shadows or the collective forces that thrive in denial. Truth is alignment, and alignment is protection. The divine always meets you in truth, in the exact place where you stop pretending and finally say, this is what lives in me, and this is what I am ready to work with. You are never met in performance, never met in the image you create, only in the clarity of who you truly are, and the courage to see yourself with open eyes.